Okay, 6 o'clock. I'm here, Tom here. He's absent. I'm Bart's here, sorry. Chuck's here, Jim's here. Anything from public comment this evening?
No.
Okay. A couple of just quick things under my report is Ricky was just inquiring about the mausoleum. It is very much anticipated that the receivership is going to be extended again. That's positive for a number of reasons. We anticipate that it could be extended upwards of, I believe, I probably get this wrong now, I think Memorial Day. Okay, so more to come. Obviously, you know, Ricky, your department will need to be trained and things like that. But Connie Goddard still feels as though there are a number of things on the punch list from the overall corporation that need to be addressed, and she's done a lot of good work on that, and she'd rather not do the transfer until it's complete. So I appreciate her willingness to stay in that role. So more to come. I did want to spend a couple of minutes talking maybe more holistically about about a topic that we are going to have to spend a lot of time and energy on moving forward. And that's not to say that we don't spend any time on it at all. There are a number of federal and state statutes and things that come down that we need to address as a municipality. Many of them are being reevaluated and kind of reworked, especially in the state of New York, as it relates to sexual harassment and harassment training. And there are a lot of new requirements that are kind of hitting the books. I participated in a chamber training that we send our folks to recently for investigations. And we are going through the process of making sure that all of our employees meet the standards for the training, which is approximately a 90-minute session. What we have been told through the Association of Towns and others is this is not just going to be for the full-time permanent employee. This is going to, and this is going to impact you too, Debbie, is all entities of the town, meaning council members, employees, coaches, lifeguards, ZBA members, planning board members, etc. So while I was not planning on going to the Association of Towns, there are a couple of statutes and such that I'm looking to try to see how other towns are grappling with this. So I may consider going this year. And we've already begun to have some conversations with members of the chamber about how to get some additional training done. There may be some online tools that we can use, but this really where I want to go in this conversation is the town is of a unique size and has, you know, a lot of different things that it's addressing that we continue to evaluate. How do we address the HR subject matter? I had been hoping for a long time that the county might be able to provide some HR services for the municipalities. So I want to re-engage in some conversations with the county and the other towns and villages in the city. But nonetheless, if no one else is kind of going to step up, this is something we have to tackle because these things aren't going away. I mean, folks that are in the private sector, you know, and you know, I wouldn't say that we've kicked the can down the road. I think that we've done some really good work, thanks to Pat and Nikki in particular. But they are not HR specialists, and we have kind of gotten to a point where we need to evaluate some type of system. I do not believe that we need to hire somebody full-time to have them on site day to day, but we do need to fill that gap somehow. So I just wanted to make you aware of it, that we're going to be looking at some training in the near future, and I'm going to also try to make some proposals in the near future of how we might be able to address.
So this is another unfunded mandate?
You know, you could look at it that way. But we've been doing a lot of these trainings right now, Tom.
We have been for our staff and, for us, but what about, all these other people that are volunteers that, they come in at different times, they maybe make that one meeting. How are you gonna?
Yep. And that's where I'm gonna be looking for some guidance, Tom, on who meets that standard. You know what I mean? Is it one of our appointed committees and boards? Is it PACs, like the smart growth? I mean, will they have to go through it? Is it the coaches? I mean, we need some additional guidance.
Well, one thing probably that I think everybody ought to keep in mind is that it is expensive and it is an unfunded mandate, but if a coach, say, is charged with something, they're going to sue the town.
Yeah.
So that's just the way that it works.
Michael, for planning, we have to have certain amount of training every year. Might Trevor or somebody speak with the New York State Planning Association about offering that at the training?
Yes, but
annually?
so here's one of the single problems that we've already identified. A segment of that training has to be specific to your organization. Okay, well, but let me be clear though. So, because there's now a form that the state of New York requires, and you need to specifically know who to take that form to and the process. So if you went to the Federation of Planning and there's 30 different municipalities there, they're probably not gonna wanna say, the town of Plattsburgh is so-and-so and so-and-so. The town of Potsdam is so I get, that's where we're trying to find where we can marry some of the trainings and things that we're doing now and still get some of the additional information. One option we believe may be doing an online tool for some people. That may, I mean, you used I think it was the NYMER one. Or was it correct?
Just the
Correct,
PERMA.
and I'm gonna believe that the company we're contracting with for the safety is probably gonna have some online
Yep.
ability there too,
Yep.
with other areas, so I wouldn't be a bit surprised about what we can't.
Yep. So we're gonna have to
So
figure this out.
it's not the courses that we just took on sexual harassment.
It could be.
For you've met that standard,
Yeah.
okay? But what we're doing though is we're having to onboard the other entities of the town into this training. So,
Well, the easiest thing for many of them would be something like an online.
potentially.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think we're gonna have to have a couple of tools in the toolbox now.
Yeah.
For some folks, I mean, this isn't a judgment statement, but it's just a fact. I mean, some people, aren't technology driven, and if we want our boards to be, multi-generational and a number of other things, then we have to meet people where they're at. The other thing that we have to be aware of is this may detract from people wanting to volunteer for the organization as well. Because it's not just, oh, I'm going to a meeting, right? It's additional training, it's additional time, it's additional responsibility that they are taking on. So we really have to kind of peel this back to make sure that we're doing it correctly. And, you may look at some of the other municipalities in Clinton County and say, well, this town or this village or the city or whoever isn't doing it this way. I don't care what they're doing as far as if they're meeting the standard or not. We have to meet this standard. We have to be in compliance.
Tom, to Jim's point, I mean, this is not necessarily a unique situation because there's other arenas other than the private sector, for instance, higher education or something, where this has also been pushed out, not right now, but maybe a few years ago. So it's just shifting the audience, and that has to be trained. That's where I think Michael's trying to logistically figure out the ways to do it.
Understood, but we continue to add training after training after training. And you look at how many hours people go into training now, it's quite a few. When we authorize it, and they have to, I mean, they have to have their licenses, they have to, and I'm not saying that this isn't an important part, but I just feel like, there's continually giving us these unfunded mandates. That means, okay, we comply, we get everybody there, we've lost even more work time, compared to what we have, and
The only problem is there is no alternative.
Yeah.
I mean, there just isn't. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't, and you get sued, and you just, you're never land. You
Well, the
just-
alternative is what the Wall Street Journal is saying, and that's you just don't have men. You don't
Exactly.
hire women. End of story.
Yeah.
Well, and from the rec side, I mean, there's currently training. I mean, when I coached T-ball, I had to go in, there was a mandated training that I had to take. And I mean, I think most of the folks that are involved understand that there's gonna be, probably some commitment above and beyond that meeting a month or a couple of times a month. But I really think, and I think we're lucky to have Michael in that he has the contacts with the other municipalities. In my mind, this is an opportunity to maybe somehow or another contract with a professional, but in collaboration with other municipalities, or whether it be hire somebody with shared services, whatever the case may happen to be. But I think there's opportunities there. But I think personally, we're putting a lot of, I don't know if stress is the right word, on Pat and his folks to really kind of operate not necessarily within their normal bumpers. They're going on the other side of that.
Thank you for saying that too, because we have to allocate resources in the appropriate bucket, and for me, if you were to look at our meetings and when we have executive sessions, I know we have a lot of executive sessions on personnel matters. I'll tell you that a huge segment of my job really has been trying to address some of the stuff that may seem rather small, but personnel matters can grow very quickly.
Yeah.
And so it's, that's not the fun part of the job, but it's a critical portion of the job. And I really want to thank our department heads in particular, because they've really rolled up their sleeves and they've identified that, we have to take a proactive approach to things. You can't sweep things under the carpet, only to trip over the bump in the rug, later on. And in that same vein, we're not starting at zero. Okay, we're not starting at zero, but we do have a ways to go in some areas, and I'm confident that the team that we have here, both the employees, as well as the elected officials and the volunteers of our boards, can create a model that will be successful. But we are going to have to kind of identify where those resources need to go. And we're just talking about one entity. I'm telling you, FMLA is another thing that has become very dynamic. We have a number of other kind of segments that need to be, looked at and evaluated. So I don't want to get on the soapbox, but I just wanted to let you know, it seems like we're closing out 2018, but it will certainly be a priority. It will continue to be a priority, but we'll get a lot more emphasis moving forward. Okay. So, any questions, concerns on that? All right. Couple of we have a big packet. The last couple of meetings of the year, there will be fairly active. You have your draft minutes, draft monthly reports. I'm seeking to have Meg serve as the deputy supervisor again. A reappointment of our fair housing officer. Many of these things are items that we do on an annual basis. Steve Imhoff has served in that capacity, and appropriately so. Appointment of the town clerks. There is
Court clerks, right?
court clerks, thank you. Election, workers' compensation, and then planning board member appointment, Tim Palmer. His appointment is coming up, and contact has been made to ask him to continue, and he has affirmed to do that again. Drug and alcohol testing program, talking about, Tom, one of those kind of responsibilities that a municipality have. You have, in this case, we only have gentlemen, but the highway guys, they're got a huge piece of equipment that they're, managing, and you gotta make sure that you do the random drug test, the DUR program, but that, goes across the board for our employees. Employee Assistance Program, we've talked about this a number of times. This is one of those programs that, life does happen, and is a great resource for our employees, and
That's one, we have to always have at least 50 employees, right?
yes, yeah.
We don't have any trouble with that for now.
Municipal property and liability insurance renewal, JCEO contract. Again, a lot of this is just, we've been doing this for a while. Elmore SPCA.
Now, before you go any further.
Yep.
Janet had called me from the Ag and Markets.
Yep.
I don't know if she called you, if she was going to, but
Nope.
she wanted to know if the town had made any decision about where David's gonna bring a vicious dog.
They continue to, Ag and Markets continues to try to help us evaluate that. A lot of the municipalities in Clinton County are struggling with that right now.
Yeah,
That's another one of those items,
yeah, okay, so,
ongoing. I know that I think he's talked to Palmer's, and one other one, so, yeah. Town of Plattsburgh website, and we've made one of those modifications, thanks to a suggestion by Debbie, actually, for the calendar that Ricky now is able to manage. There is one resolution that I am going to bring up tonight, and that is it's Resolution 229, Town of Plattsburgh Copier Maintenance Consultant Agreement.
whereas the town has requested and received quotes for maintenance of the town's copier fleet on an annual contractual basis with SimQuest, bid providing the best value. Therefore, be resolved that the town contract with SimQuest to provide copier maintenance as outlined in the attached agreement. And it be further resolved that after review by the town's attorney, the supervisor is duly authorized and empowered to execute the attached agreement on behalf of the town of Plattsburgh. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution and said agreement be given to the finance manager.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Caustic, is there a second?
Second,
Hebert. I'll just give you a little context, and the reason that I'm asking for this to be considered this evening. SimQuest is trying to close out this year with this. Pat had a conversation with SimQuest, as I did, as well as National, and we're going to be getting things in a regular cycle to put some of these things out. I don't want to call them low-hanging fruit, but these are some of the items that we're trying to do even better with by getting them out there from time to time.
and
So,
keep a good pricing
Yep.
structure that's not gonna go up.
Yep.
Okay.
So, without anything further, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. All right, the next one is a...
That was 229, right?
229, yes. Resolution sale of surplus equipment. We plan on using the same program as before. I think we received approximately, was it 40,000?
41,000.
41,000.
Yes.
And, that was a,
Far superior than what we have ever got
yeah,
onto it.
Nice.
yeah.
Because
So-
you had so many other people bidding on it that
Yeah.
we never had before.
Yeah.
Nice.
So again, we're gonna be very attentive to looking at the equipment that's in the back. Kudos to Tim and his crew for continuing to clean up the yard and try to pull some of that material out. So,
But in addition, Michael, this is also other departments, right? that
Oh, yeah.
also-
Oh, yeah.
so
All of them.
We're doing
Yeah.
cross-functional,
Yeah.
okay, yep, which is awesome, yep.
we haven't had the formal conversation. I did this anticipation. Town board meetings, my plan was to continue to keep them at 6 o'clock on Thursdays without any objection. Okay? I know that right now, the way that we have it set is we will not have a meeting on July 4th, we will not have a meeting on November 28th, and if something needs to change because of, proximity to holidays and people out of pocket, then we'll change it as adjusted, but
And the
it's,
same thing with fifth Monday, or fifth
yeah,
Thursdays.
yeah, that should be Thursday.
And on that particular one, that resolution did have Monday,
Yep, I just made the adjustment here.
just, okay.
Yeah, all right. This one, we can have some conversation over, because I know a couple of people did say that they wanted to converse a little bit about it, and that was committee appointments. What I would, if you can allow me just to make a couple of quick notes before we get into it. I'd like to keep the deputy supervisor on the personnel committee. I think that that is really important because if I'm out of pocket and if something is developing, it keeps a certain consistency with it. I'd also like to suggest that the deputy supervisor not be on the auditing committee because that person is a secondary signature if I'm not available, so it kind of cleans that up a little bit. And then the last two things is because of the, it's actually kind of one item collectively though, is I'd like to recommend the continuation of the same representatives from the Building and Grounds Committee serve with the Recreation Committee because there is so much crossover between those two. I think that by the time you hear some stuff, it may not be action items that need to be addressed, but just having a background of, oh wow, okay, we've got 12, soccer teams that are going to be in Cumberland Head this year, and you just kind of get a sense for that. Other thoughts and opinions, requests, interests?
Well, on the resolution, it has, Barb, on the,
It was only draft, knowing that the names were going
This was
to,
draft.
that some of the names were going to change. So they're only on there just as names because I didn't want to have to go through and have Deborah rewrite a name if they were going to stay. It's better to just slash and delete. So, Barb,
Yes.
were there any committees that you were interested in or looking to step away from?
I think in the spirit of offering rotation to allow other councils to participate on a committee, I'm looking at coming off the personnel committee.
Okay.
And giving the opportunity for somebody else to be
Okay.
involved in that, because I think there's activity that would be helpful for
Okay.
someone.
Considering that, I'm just going to try to go to each of these. I'm requesting that as deputy make stay on there. Tom or Chuck, do either of you have a particular interest or?
I would like to skip that committee. I've been on that committee before.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Okay, so you're taking Barb off and put Chuck on?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chuck
Okay.
will-
Okay. Okay.
Now, does that give Chuck many more?
Well, we're going to go through each, so don't overcount yet, Tom. Don't
have my list here.
jump ahead of me.
Don't audit the,
Tom's over making his mad marks.
Okay.
scratching things out.
Were there any other committees that you were seeking to kind of step away from?
No,
right now? Okay,
no.
so let's kind of do this first. Chuck, is there anything that you were seeking to step away from? Is there anything that, is a driving motivation to say, I really can't work with Tom anymore?
We're only on one
that's
committee.
what-
One can be enough, Chuck, one
I
can be
got Barb on
enough.
every committee with me except that one, and they don't give me any with me, so it's me.
Chuck, you understand I work with Tom on most of these committees.
That's why she has to deal
Maybe
with
that's
personnel, she has to deal with me all the
Maybe
time.
that's a good
I
thing,
will say
yeah.
the safety committee's been very successful, so I'm good with staying on that one with Tom. So.
She kept him at
That's
bay.
safe.
I'm good where I am. I mean, I don't really feel, the personnel's gonna add to it a little bit. The ambulance really is that once a year.
Sure.
There's bits and pieces here and there. Certainly if I was, if Tom wanted to go on buildings and grounds and youth, I don't, youth rec, I don't have a issue with that either.
Well, I don't really want to give up planning and zoning and assessing and highway and justice court.
And this, and we don't need to make large sweeping changes here too. So, we have adjusted committees at other times throughout the year, so if that's the only primary adjustment that we want to make, that's fine right now.
Well, my understanding was, time-wise, very difficult for Chuck to be on the audit committee, based on based on his work and everything else, so that's,
Timing would be a little bit tight. I mean, I can do it. I mean, if I was gonna do that, then, I definitely would want to drop off something else.
yeah, well, if you have a great desire to do that, then I'll switch with you, but, otherwise.
Okay, I don't have that great desire.
Oh, okay, so I get to do the audit, all right,
I think
One
it's,
more committee with me, Tom.
all right. So I think in part then that really
Yeah,
is the large,
Just one change.
the one
Yeah.
change for now. Again, we can reevaluate this again, but, okay. Moving forward. Okay, in similar.
So Chuck, as a new person, it looks like you have more committee spots, really,
Really, no. Well, the two are blended together, and the one really is just once a year for the most part, so.
In similar vein, the fire district liaisons for 2019. Does anybody have a preference to, particular fire departments? I'm going to self-advocate. I would like to stay with Cumberland Head. I've been with them for, I'm not that old.
A million years.
I've been with them and, having lived out there in the past and, it's just, they're kind of my group, so I'd like to continue with
Yeah,
that.
makes sense.
I mean, the only thing I would throw out is it really doesn't matter to me which one I'm liaison to. It wouldn't make a lot of sense for me
Yeah.
to liaison to Katie Bell.
Do you know those guys?
Yeah, I'm there every now and then.
Yeah, but you guys bring a lot.
I'll take the
lot
Katyville
of
one.
continuity to what you've been doing, so, you still have a good rapport with everybody, so leave it go.
Like I said, in the spirit of rotating, which I think is important to do,
Mhm.
and obviously I'll go to Tom, because Tom's probably been liaison for a few of these over his terms. I would just say, I'd be willing to rotate for District 3, for instance. Is that the one you're on, Tom? Just to give you- Yeah, so that's, again, I think it's good to.
So the two of you are open to switching then?
Tom?
Yes, that way Barb will have District 3 and I'll have Morrisonville. I eat at whatever breakfast they have, so it doesn't bother me.
That's coming up.
So do I, Tom. All right, Tom.
So,
The only thing is, like, usually there's Sunday morning breakfast, so I have to get there real early because I make it in time for choir, so.
You all set on that one,
It's
Ray?
Morrisonville this week, too.
yeah, I'm
so
just,
this Sunday.
where's the? okay,
This what-
so
when is it?
You're
This
going where
Sunday.
District
This-
3,
yes.
Tom's going.
What time?
Yep,
Sunday?
Tom said, yep,
So I believe they start at 7.
okay.
It starts at 7? Oh, okay, if it starts at 7, I can make it then. If it starts at
It might
8,
be 8, I'm not sure. I'll have to-
Hey, Tom, if you get there for 7 and it is 8, you won't be late.
Tom, I'll try to check.
7 to noon.
Okay.
well, I usually bring my wife and we help out my daughter, whoever else I can get going.
Gonna jump back into some more draft materials for you folks. Request to attend training and,
This is for Drew or?
Yep.
Okay, good.
yep.
Yeah, these are the last two of the 6 modules, or 6.
And a shout out to him, as well as the District 3 volunteer fire department. They went around on Monday, I think it was Monday or Tuesday evening, to some of the apartments that they've been having a high response rate to because those apartments have wood stoves. And they did some on-site education. And it was received really, really well. And what was nice about it for Drew is it gives him the opportunity to develop a relationship with one of the departments that's in the core area that, he would have to get called out for. And overall, it was a good service, so I was happy to see him involved in that.
I know through conversations with Steve, that's a lot of what Drew's focus is
Yeah.
going
Yes,
to
that's
be.
correct.
Yeah.
Act as that liaison and coach
Yeah.
over to the
Yeah.
fire departments, which I think is great.
And that's the big gap again.
Oh, yeah.
So are all of us that burn wood, should we be putting on a list or something for it?
As long as your wood's still.
Draft budget amendments, and then there's a draft here. It doesn't need to be acted on tonight, but I'm going to say it now, and I'll likely say it again next week. We do have a letter of resignation from Stephanie Henry, who works in the finance and really budgeting office. I'm really sad to see Stephanie leaving the town of Plattsburgh, but she and I had a good conversation today. This is an opportunity for professional advancement. I certainly thank her for her service to the town, and if, you know, there was an opportunity to have her come back, I would certainly welcome it. So,
Absolutely.
you know, it's unfortunate to see anybody leave,
Yeah.
but certainly don't want to see someone held back too, so.
To extend your point, you're right about professional advancement, but it's within her civil service
Yep.
title, so,
Yep.
you know, credit to her to take the test or whatever she had to do for
Yeah.
promotional advancement.
Culvert pipe order, the highway department typically starts to, thinking far out ahead already for a culvert order. And then lastly, propane purchase contract. And this will be something that I believe will be talked about in the water committee next week, so. Down to the highlights, as always.
Do you want to? I could add
Oh, that got stuck in my,
one. Okay, that's fine.
yep,
Use that.
thank you.
Yeah, just wanna make sure you-
And
you
another,
pick those.
another item as well, it just probably got tucked in.
Yeah, that's okay.
Was Mary Ann Alexandra for the zoning board of appeals with an opportunity for reappointment.
Okay.
Okay,
Gotcha.
so,
Thanks.
yep. I would entertain a brief executive session to talk about two specific individuals regarding work history. If,
I don't know if I find it.
So moved.
Yes.
Yes. Make the motion like I do.
Second.
Hebert, Fosdick. Time is 6:31, no action to be taken. Tom,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
and myself, yes. We will go in at 6:30 now.